Good evening, everyone,
Good evening, ma'am.
and good evening. Thank you. I think now you all can hear me. So there are only 12 people. Right. I think now we have to start. Uh, we have come to the fifth day. I think now we've discussed a lot on education and philosophy and educational philosophy, right? Then I think I want you all to focus your attention on revising what we all have learned so far, right? And there are some overlaps, and I just repeated some of the topics over and over again because I want everyone to get at the correct idea and focus your attention on the information and facts provided, right? So, I think first of all, if we can just go for a small quiz, I think that will be useful for everyone. All right. Before that, I want you to just go through all these things we shared. I mean, we just discussed the other day, right? Right. We discussed. Can you all see this? Yes or no? Can you see the objectives of studying educational philosophy?
Yes, ma'am, we can see.
All right, thank you. Yes, then why we study educational philosophy is very important because we are citizens of a country, we are members of a society, you are members of a family. Like that, you have your personal life. At the same time, you are very important because you are a teacher, right? Then that's why we speak about educational philosophy, right? So then, through educational philosophy, we have to think of finding solutions to educational issues, right? Because we are now, philosophy focuses on thinking critically, right? Not only be narrow minded, right? So then you have to say, think of being broad minded people, and you have to think of how you focus your attention on different angles of a question or an issue, right? So then you can just think of make education according to the basic or the needs of the society, right? And aim of human life and aim of survival and aim of education is also based on philosophy, right? We want to produce citizens because you are the producers. You are contributing to produce citizens to the country. And for all these things, you have to make your teaching learning process more effective, attractive, and You have to understand the needs and interest of the children, right? Not you, because you all are adults, right? We focus on teaching children, especially here, because adult education is somewhat different and you all are at different levels. Your needs are different, right? So, like that, you face different sorts of problems. But we use the modes like online teaching, and then we discuss a little and we ask you to study, do self study. And like that, there's a difference, right? Then you, as teachers, you have to focus your attention on uh, physical classrooms where you all teach. Okay, right. Then okay, now shall we try to answer these questions? I think you all can see the questions. There are three questions here. What are your answers to these questions? Question one. What is the answer? Huh?
Yes, ma'am.
Sashi, Surya. Yeah, Philip?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah,
Yes, ma'am.
it is a Greek word, ma'am.
Okay, yes, right. You know now there are differences like Philo and Sophia. Sometimes we get from the resources, sometimes they say Philo and Sophie, like that. Yeah, anyway, the meaning is love of wisdom. Your answer is yes. Okay. Question two.
False, ma'am. False. Wrong.
Very good. Thank you very much. Yes, because the primary focus is not classroom management, right? Yes. Okay. Then question three. We discussed John Dewey's philosophy. What do you think of this? Did John Dewey define education primarily as the memorization of facts or not? You can say yes or no. Yes. What's your answer?
No, ma'am.
Your answer is no. How about the others? Yes, Hashi, Suravira, what do you say? Huh? What's your answer?
No, madam.
No. Right. Why? Can you give me a reason to your answer? Memorization of facts. Hmm? He didn't focus on memorization of facts, but he said,
So
what is
it
his
should be
idea? You can just,
practical, ma'am. Practical.
practical. That's right. Learning by doing, experimental learning. Hmm? Okay, right. Very good. And then number 4 and 5. We can go for 3 more. Yes, 4, 5, and 6. Okay. Number 4. Does the scope of educational philosophy include examining the aims and goals of education? Oh, I can ask just like this. Aims and goals of education are decided based on educational philosophy. Is it correct? Hmm. Right, okay. We'll discuss that in detail today. Yes, the answer is yes, because when we think of education philosophy, different aspects of it, there one is aims and goals of education. When the authorities or the experts or the maybe a government of a country, maybe the Ministry of Education, when they design, when they plan, or when they plan the country's education, now you all know we have goals of education. Goals are long term expectations. Aims are a little bit shorter. Objectives are at the classroom level or short term expectations. So the aims and goals are decided based on educational philosophy. Right. Next one, number 5. Outside the scope of education philosophy. What do you see there?
No, ma'am.
No. Okay. Yes, nature of learner, it is considered, actually it is in the content or context of educational philosophy. Right. The answer is no. Number 6.
No, ma'am.
Yes, it does not provide us with strict rules, right? No strict rules. Okay. 7 and 8, the last two.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, critical thinking. Yeah. Even the teacher, the education managers, authorities, they all have to develop their critical thinking when you are sorting out or solving the issues, problems regarding education. Right. Good. Next one, the last 8.
Yes.
Hinder innovation.
Mm.
Education philosophy. Hinder or do something else.
Ma'am, what is that meaning, ma'am? Hinder means?
Can't you just now you can say the meaning is make something difficult, right? Now, if you want to do something, uh, somebody hinders it. That means make it difficult, make the task difficult. Now, here does educational philosophy hinder innovations? That means there are barriers for they just philosophy gives us barriers for innovations, or philosophy stops us doing it. making it difficult or not?
No, ma'am. It's false.
No, madam.
Right. No. Answer should be no. Okay. Right. Now, here, I think as teachers, whenever you answer a question, you advise students, first of all, we have to study the context given to us, right? Or the content given to you. And then you have to understand the questions, read, then understand the questions well, and then focus on each and every word in the question. Sometimes some questions mislead us, and we sometimes think that we answer the questions well, but the thing is we sometimes miss one or two words. Okay, so it's rarely happen to people, but we have to be careful. And you can read the notes or the content given in the presentations, and I think by like this you will be able to get a proper idea, right? Yes. Then, mm, yeah. Before we go to another quiz, I think better to start today's lesson. Right. Unveiling educational philosophy. That means once again we go for definitions, scope, and functions of educational philosophy. Right. Now, here the objectives are you should be able to, as teachers and students of a study course like this, you should be able to describe the importance of educational philosophy, the meaning of it, and the value of studying it. Okay. Right. Now, let's take now, yesterday we couldn't actually define some terms, but I think everyone has to focus your attention on defining the three terms actually. The word education, the word philosophy, and educational philosophy. Okay. And there's no the description, right? According to what you have gathered, according to your beliefs, according to uh, your personal ideas, right? Your knowledge on these subjects. So you can prepare or you can think of your own definition, but it should be within the basic framework accepted in the field of education, right? Now, here, if we are thinking deeply about education, once we mention the word education, we just remember the word school, right? Most of the people are right. We send our children to school. The education system is very bad in the country. Like that, people speak about the school system. But you know, it's not, it's actually more than schooling. It's a fundamental human endeavor. Endeavor means an effort. Why? People have to think of your efforts about your life, right? Now, always think of education. You begin your education from home and you study or you get education from the society and school as well, especially for children. You even the children, if they go to school, once they are with their friends, they learn from their peer group, right? That's informal education. So that is a human effort, right? And for that, we need philosophical inquiry. That means through philosophy, we ask different questions regarding education. Okay. What are the aims and objectives, right? And how it should be planned. Like that, we have to examine the basic beliefs and basic framework. That means the assumptions what shape educational practices. Okay. Then understanding educational philosophy empowers us to become more thoughtful and effective learners and future educators. Okay, right. Yes, understanding educational philosophy. That means you will be empowered. The teacher will be empowered. Especially, you focus on critical thinking, right? You focus on different aspects of education. So, like that, you will be a more effective learner and a future educator, right? Then we are going to explore the core definitions, the scope and functions of the field of education. Right. Now, philosophy. We always think that it is a Greek word, right? Two Greek words together. And now you all know it. And core meaning. Now think of yesterday, we faced different, maybe, what should I say? Uh, you didn't actually send me the definitions of the word, right? You didn't, I wanted you all to do that, but you could not send me the correct definition or whatever you believe to the chat box. Maybe some of you might have left in the session, or some of you might have the equipment is following, not the person, right? Like that, there are different issues. I understand through my experience, but anyway, you all have to think of the correct idea, right? How to define and how to get at the correct meaning. The systematic and critical inquiry into fundamental questions about existence, knowledge, values, reason, mind, and language. Yeah. By now, I think with the 4, 5 sessions, including today, you should know which words go with the meaning, right? We spoke about the human nature, human existence, and the knowledge. We spoke about the branches of philosophy. Now you can understand that. You can just remember what we discussed, like, okay, existence, knowledge, values, reason, mind, and language. I have not mentioned the word aesthetics here. That's also important, right? Yes. The systematic and critical inquiry into fundamental questions in the society or in the existence in the living world. So you have to think of what philosophy is. Then philosophy emphasizes on rational argument and logical reasoning. Okay? Philosophy, once we mention the word philosophy, you should understand there's a logic, right? There's a rationale. Without just jumping into conclusions, we have to think of logical reasoning. Okay? Critical thinking, critical analysis of different concepts and different beliefs. Okay? The search for fundamental truths and principles. All these things are related to philosophy. Please try to remember these words, right? Whenever you are asked to define the term philosophy, you can At least remember these things, and then whenever there are exams for your assignments, right? So for your personal life, you can just think of all these things. Okay? When you face a difficulty, when you face different challenges, I think by now you can think critically, right? Go for the logic of that. Go for the background of the problem, right? You can analyze what's happening there, okay? Right. Then educational philosophy. Once again, we go for educational philosophy, right? Now, we know what education is, we know what philosophy is. Now we have to combine the two. Educational philosophy, right? And yesterday we discussed what? The interdependence nature of both. Education depends on philosophy, philosophy depends on education, right? So here, please understand this. Educational philosophy, philosophical methods and perspectives to examine educational theories, practices and policies. Okay. Then we have to understand the nature, aims and problems of education from a philosophical standpoint, philosophical viewpoint. Okay, right. Then this is important. Now, understand the term education. It's not only about schooling, but right, but it is something different. That it's a fundamental effort of an individual. And then we need philosophy. Philosophy has a broad meaning and it studies about the nature and the values and our mind, language, and all these things. And then educational philosophy basically the education, its theories, right? Basically, we need philosophy for educational theories, practices, policies. And we plan education. We think of aims of education. We have to solve the problems of education from a philosophical aspect, right? Then, can you just answer these questions? Right? There are some fundamental questions. Okay. Right. Yes. Can you try to answer these questions? Select one question and send me your answer to the chat box quickly. Yeah, I need an answer to only one question from one person. Don't select only the first question. Some of you can start from the bottom, some of you can start from the top. Yes, what is your answer? Now here, there's no the answer. Based on your education, you can answer the question, right? Then there's a reason, there's a logic for us to accept the answer, okay? Right, there should be a logic actually. Yes, everyone, please start. Don't think that it's a burden, but there are less number today, only 14 people. But anyway, don't worry about it, right? Yes. Send me your answers now. What can you say about the first question? Okay, send the answers to the chat box quickly. Safia, Jayasuri, I didn't get your answers. Jennifer, Sumaya, I can remember you gave me nice ideas. Husna, Azana, Piumi, Sashi, right. Question number 1. Seek knowledge and skill. Okay, that's Shafia. The purpose of education. Right. Thank you, Shafia. I focus on that. Question number 1. Right. Shafia, read the other answers, please. Knowledge, skills, values, and character to help them grow. That's Lashani. Lashani is iPhone, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. Yes. Education. All right, Lashani. Okay. Yes. Now, Shafia, try to explain a little bit like Lashani. And education develops a person's knowledge, attitudes, and skills. Also, his or her personality factors and social skills. Oh, sorry. What happened? Right. Question 4. What is the role of the teacher and the student? Very good. Yes. Azana, teacher must be a facilitator, a mentor, a guide, a curriculum developer, and a learner who gets updated all the time. That's the teacher's role. Yes, teachers are eternal students, as you all believe, right? Yes. And then the students must be an active listener, a critical thinker, and a responsible collaborator with the teacher. Yes, that's very good. And students have to do much more than this, but this is very important to listen and think critically and responsible and respond to the class, right? Respond to the teacher and then think of his or her development. Okay, right. These are very good ideas, and you can just develop, expand your ideas using these, right? Question 2. The most valuable knowledge and skills include critical thinking, communication, problem solving, adaptability, digital literacy, and emotional intelligence. Mhm. Okay. There should be soft skills, right? And then, yeah, emotional intelligence is also there. Right. Okay. Almost everything is here. These are the fundamental or basic questions, right? Philosophy inquires a lot. Philosophy asks questions. Once we focus designing an education situation, so then we ask these questions, right? Okay, very good. Teacher's role. The teacher's role is to guide, facilitate, inspire learning, right? Responsible for creating a stimulating and supportive learning environment. Yeah, very good. That's why we just mentioned the word facilitated. Teacher facilitates learning. Earlier we thought that it's teaching, that your duty is teaching. But we understand your duty is providing learning situations. That's why we call the teacher is a facilitator, right? Providing clear instructions, very good. Offering, giving feedback, right? Students' role is to active engagement in the learning process, ask questions, seek clarification, and strive to achieve their learning goals. All right, very good. Yeah. Yes, good idea. So, before we plan the education system of a country, we have to design and we have to decide how the teacher's role should be, how the students' role should be, like that. Okay, very good answers are coming. Then, how should we teach and learn? Can somebody give me an answer? Question 3. How should we teach and learn? What is this? What does this question imply? Teaching, learning, methodologies, strategies. Right. Thank you, Sumeya. Teaching and learning involve a dynamic interplay between instructors and students, right? Approaches range from traditional lecture based methods to more student centered. Okay. And we emphasize on active learning, collaboration, personalized learning experiences, right? More interaction in the classroom, maybe teacher student interaction, student student interaction, right? Yes. Number 5. What organizes a just and equitable educational system? Right. It is organized through a multifaceted approach that includes policies. Right. Okay, good. Policies, practices, and community engagement all the time. And ensuring fair access to quality education for all the students. Yes, that's right. Yes. Just and that means everything. Education or the education should be fair by everyone. Okay? Right. Yes, what's that? Equal access to quality education for individual. Yes. Different backgrounds, socio-economic status. Yeah, that's right. Very good. You know, in every country they try to do it, and you can just think whether our country and some other countries are successful or not. And there are issues regarding this. Teacher guides, explains, supports learning while the student listens, asks questions, practices, means follow teacher's instructions, participates actively to understand, apply knowledge in studies in and real life. Yeah, that means participate in the activities, right? and the student has to research and learn, right? Okay. Yeah, thank you everyone for your nice answers and very important answers, very important ideas for our discussion. Right, thank you. Now, yes, these are the basic questions that philosophy has to ask before planning the education system, right? Why do we have the education system? That means the purpose of education. Then which knowledge and skills are most valuable, right? We can't actually have a clear cut idea, but depending on the situations, like the grade system, grade 1 to grade 13, and which type of knowledge should be imparted, like that, according to their levels. Then how should we teach? The methodologies, methods, and then the techniques, strategies, all these things are considered. And the teacher, how should the teacher be and how should the student be? So we have to decide them. And then a fair and just setup in the education system. All these things are considered in philosophy, right? In education philosophy, actually. In educational philosophy is considered, the theories, practices, and policies are there. When we are decide on the education policy, we think of the equal education opportunities, distributing resources equally. And there are inequalities, but that is the practical problem. The planning part is there. Therefore, we have to maximize it, right? These are the questions we discussed and the necessary questions for the educational philosophy, right? And now, right now only I see Sumaya's answer for question 2, critical thinking, problem solving, communication, adaptability. Yeah, all these things are important for a student's development. Okay. Now, if you say scope of educational philosophy, that means we have to focus our attention on the areas that education philosophy should explore. That educational philosophy should focus its attention on, right? Yes, first one is aim. As we discussed earlier, I can remember you gave me the correct answers, right? You all responded well. Aims and goals of education, right? Then aims and goals of education, actually they may be different from country to country. You may think of Sri Lanka, India, these are Asian countries, and the other European countries, right? And depending on the climatic situations, geographies, and the economic situation of the country, like that, we have to think of, decide on aims and goals of education. Why? That is the ultimate result of the education. Now, when we consider the goal of education in Sri Lanka, I told you that to produce a total person. And if you just think of England, they say they want a real gentleman. Like that, we have to think of the final destination of the process of education, right? Then you have to think of people and their development, and then the society to be developed through education. And we need people for doing different jobs. Therefore, we plan vocational training and higher education opportunities. All these are influenced by aims and goals of education. Then the curriculum. When you plan the curriculum, philosophical considerations are there. The best example is, I should say, the colleges of education. They are the places where we produce teachers, right? Once you enter a university, you study different subjects, but you are not supposed to be a teacher there, right? You can be a teacher, you can be maybe a director, or you can be some administrators, like that. But in colleges of education, we focus on producing teachers, and they have to master different subjects. But the teacher should be all round, and the teacher should learn the theories, learn the practical aspects, and get the practical real experiences from the school. Once again, you were at a school as a student, and you go to a school as a teacher for your practice. And you get that experience, and you learn aesthetic subjects, you learn physical education, you have to focus on your physical fitness. So, like that, the curriculum is designed taking into consideration of all the aspects, right? We have to think of philosophical ideas, and we focus on them and then decide how we have to de- design the curriculum, how we have to plan the curriculum. Okay, right. Then I told you earlier, teaching methodologies. Teaching methodologies, right? You learn subjects like especially for teachers of English, you learn ELT methodology, English language teaching methodology. So, teaching English is different from teaching science or teaching mathematics and teaching mother tongue, right? Because English is the second language or the international language or link language of the student. So, like that, you have to learn the particular methodology. So, then you are taught that. And then why we plan all these things logically, after thinking logically, right? There's logical reasoning. So earlier in the traditional way of teaching, that was teacher centered, right? Teacher was the sole authority in the class. Students, teacher does not question, the students only had to follow what he or she said, right? No discussions, no activities, no group work in the class. But little by little, we moved to student-centered learning based on the philosophical ideas, right? And maybe from less effective methodologies to more effective methodologies, right? So we explore. Now think the educational philosophy also changing day by day. It explores things, and then it's changing little by little. Okay. Then again, nature of the learner, right? First, you have to understand the learner, the stages of the life, the human life, right? And different subject streams. And then there's why and how, especially how children learn. There are different learning styles of children, and some people are very difficult to motivate. Some students are easily get motivated, and some people are self motivated. So, like that, nature of the learner, and we know that it's different from one learner to another. Okay, we have to respect individual differences. That's our philosophy because we think critically. As a teacher, we have to think critically, understand the nature of children, nature of the learner. Learners are different individuals, right? No two people are alike, right? If you take two people, they are different from each other. So then we don't think that everyone's capacity is the same, but they are at different level. They have different capacities, and we respect that difference. Okay. Then role of the teacher. Teacher is responsible for many things at school, right? Teacher becomes the authority once, and there are ethical constraints also for the teacher. As an educator, you have to maintain a very good, a favorable learning environment in the class. Role of the teacher is decided based on the country's educational philosophy. Now, I think if you speak to your friends or your relatives teaching in Canada or the United Kingdom or some other countries, especially some maybe Middle East countries or some other countries, then their responsibilities are different from ours, right? In some schools they have teacher assistants. So then the responsibility is divided among the two. But once you think of your responsibilities, you are the sole authority in the class. You face different challenges, as we say. Like that, role of the teacher is also defined and decided based on the country's educational philosophy. We continue the same here, the different areas that education philosophy should explore. Social, right? Now, earlier, I think in our country, there were not much disasters. There were floods and all, but after tsunami came in 2004, I think, as I remember, and then there was disaster management, right? As a concept, maybe as a subject. And then people had a lot of concern on all these, right? And there are political issues in the country. So then again, we may have a change in the system of education. And inclusive education, right? What is inclusive education? We have to include everyone in the system of education. Every child has a right to education in the school system. Normally, even now we have what we call special education units in some schools, and then the duty or their responsibilities to educate differently abled children, right? Or maybe you can just say children with special education needs. But in developed countries, and that concept is also with us for a long time. Only thing is, due to our practical problems, the Sri Lankan schools could not put it into practice. That's called inclusive education. Those differently able students are also studying in the normal classroom. but there's an assistant for each differently able child in the classroom. There should be an assistant. But here in this country, our country, we can't employ such people, and therefore we have still the special education units in some schools for the benefit of children with special education needs, or we can say differently abled children, right? Then again, we have to think of how they can go to school, maybe climbing the steps, or without climbing, they have to go on a wheelchair, then there should be the correct access. I think you can notice now in some banks and hospitals, especially they have, and some schools also, right? There should be access to all these individuals, right? So then the political ideology in a country is very important. You know, from time to time, different regimes come and go. So we have to face different changes also. But I think the political ideology on education should be logical, right? It should not be a personal idea. It should be logical. It should be philosophical, right? Then epistemology and education. That means why and how, or what and how we learn. Okay? How we know things and what we know, and their implications. That's for teaching and learning. How we know things, that means how we learn things. What we know, the content, right? They are for the teaching and learning process, right? The correct idea of education should be there. Then ethics and education, right? Now, I told you something called soft skills, and then we have to teach children ethics, the moral principles, and how to behave towards each other, how to respect each other. Like that, there are ethical issues, especially for the teacher. We always just speak to children and their levels, and but you have to say you can't criticize the children's behavior in public. There are ethical constraints, right? Limits. So they are very important in the field of education because ethics can protect children's behavior or children's future, right? And children's maybe their mental situation, right? Or ethics can, the teacher's ethics can develop the moral principles of children, right? Then philosophy of educational, sorry, educational research. Then educational research, they are very important. And as teachers, I think you all have understood by now. So then examining the assumptions and methodologies, right? That means you have to examine without just following some other person's findings, without just accepting, you can examine, you can research, you can just go for collecting data. huh? You can be, actually the teacher should be a researcher. Now in the classroom you may get different people, and then you can do an action research, right? You can do an action research. There you have to collect data, there you have to think of new strategies, right? And you have to evaluate the results of the use of new strategies, new methodologies in the class. Therefore, this research field field is very important, and based on educational research, we design the education system, right? In the education system, teachers also can engage in educational research. Right. Okay. Now, let's move on to functions of educational philosophy. Earlier, we discussed the scope of educational philosophy. That means especially the different areas that education philosophy should be used, right? Should be utilized. Then functions of educational philosophy. Here there are only 4, but you can think of expanding these ideas, right? First of all, as we discussed earlier, defining or determining the aspects of education, right? If you decide on the system of education in the country, groups of experts get together and decide, and they collect data from general public. They collect data from the professionals, right? Teachers, lecturers, and the professionals in the field of education or some other people. We have to get the assistance from the economic side of the country, right? Economists are there. So, like that, we decide on everything, every aspect of education. When deciding, when determining those things, we get the help of educational philosophy. One function of educational philosophy is to determine the different aspects of education, such as aims and goals of education, its curriculum. Now you understand in the school curriculum, we learn different subjects. In the curriculum, we have co-curricular activities for children, and we just say the primary school curriculum and secondary school curriculum, like that. There are differences and methods of teaching. We have to decide on that, and the discipline expected in the school, right? Discipline expected in the education system, and then the teacher and student, their roles, and then the administration, how administrators should behave, how administrators should plan, how administrators should work or involve in the school activities. All these things are influenced by educational philosophy, right? Then harmonizing old and new traditions in the field of education. Now, we always say that traditional teacher-centered method is not to be used, and the student-centered method is very important. Right, yes. But at times in the classroom, uh, at times you have noticed that we should use lecture method. That's an old method and a traditional method, right? But we can just go for lecture discussion method. That means we amalgamate, we just mix the old and new traditions together, right? We can get the benefit of all traditions. And based on the old traditions, little by little, new things are coming in the field of education, right? So then we have we have to develop our critical thinking, and we'll be able to, or we should be able to use both, right? Or just sorry, analyze both for the benefit of the school system, right? Then providing the educational planners, administrators, and educators with the progressive vision to achieve educational development, right? What do we give them? What is the most important term here, or the two words here? Progressive vision. Sorry. Right. Yes, progressive vision. Okay. That means we have to give them the progressive vision. Why? To achieve the goals of education, aims and objectives of education, right? We have to give. Who are the parties that we have to give a progressive vision, right? I mean, improving their vision, right? The correct way of looking at things, right? Then we have to think of educational planners, administrators, and educators. You all are educators. That means you are a teacher. You are the facilitator there. You are at the operational level. Therefore, all these three parties are important. Everyone has a clear idea of what to be contributed in order to achieve the educational goals, right? Now, you all think of the national goals in the country. Therefore, you can contribute to national goals in the country as the teacher. And administrators, when they are planning their activities, their duties, they also have to focus on country's national goals, right? The planners, they have to plan everything. They have to think of the curriculum, they have to plan the school system, they have to plan exams, and they have to plan the different opportunities. So they have to plan printing textbooks and then distributing resources and equality among schools. So the teachers' distribution, everything contributes towards the development of the education system in a country. Okay? Then preparing the young generation to face the challenges of the modern time. Right. Yes. What do you think of the young generation? Some of them are not, they are not able to face challenges. That's why they try to depend on some other person, maybe parents. If there are no people to depend on, then they try to commit suicide. Huh? They try to maybe leave the school. Huh? They try to stop their education. Like that, the modern day society is complicated, right? It's a technological world and we are living in the global village concept. With that, we are living, and there are developed technologies. So then we have to prepare our children, our young generation, to face all the challenges. Now, for example, using modern technology is a challenge. Why? Children can destroy their lives using modern technology, especially the social media and maybe internet and all those things. And some of our children, they can achieve success using modern technology in the proper manner. So like that, there are differences, means individual differences, and the opportunities are different, and the way people look at and accept the opportunities. So then there are capabilities, right? So, like that, preparing producing producing adults through the school system to face all the challenges in the modern world. So, all these ideas are very important. These things are to be considered. These things are to be done by the educational philosophy. Educational philosophy influence on all these things in the education system in a country. Okay, now there are four aspects and you have to expand your knowledge on all these things. Now please remember, we have to, once again I am telling you, you have to be able to define the term philosophy, define the term education and educational philosophy. You have to understand that. And then we have to focus our attention on which aspects are focused by educational philosophy and what is the duty or the function of educational philosophy. That means there are overlaps, but you have to understand and differentiate depending on the situation. Okay, right. Is there any question regarding this? No? Okay, right. Then we have to once again move on to a little quiz. Right. I think you all can see this. Let's take some. Okay, right. Everyone, please try to answer this question now. Right. Based on our discussion, what can you decide? Now, I discussed about these people. I discussed how we have to give them a progressive vision. Huh? What can you say now? What is your answer? In what specific way does philosophy of education provide planners and administrators with a progressive vision? Right? Yes, what's your idea? Send me an answer to the chat box quickly. Okay, hello. Right. Now there's a choice. You can select one or two. How does educational philosophy bridge the gap between a practitioner's professional experiences and acquired theoretical knowledge? Right? You are a practitioner. Okay, you are the teacher, you are a practitioner. Your professional experience and your theoretical knowledge. How does educational philosophy bridge the gap. That means connect the two together. Right. Everyone, please send me an answer. You can select question 1 or 2. Just think of 1 or 2 sentences. That's enough. Think of typing. Yes, Piyumi? Hello. Can't you guess? Just guess. Oh, whatever we discussed so far. Right, let's take another 2 then. The square peg in the square hole and round knot in the round hole. You may take down the questions if you want. But please try to answer. Still, I didn't get any answer. Then number 5. Right, look at question 5. Right, now learning a theory and listen to a discussion, that's important. And after that, you should be able to recollect and then try to answer a question like this. In what specific way does philosophy of education provide educational planners and administrators with a progressive vision? Right? How should they are given a progressive vision? Progressive means you have to think of a progress of something, improvement of something. That means they have to think of the improvement of the field of education. Then how educational philosophy provide them or equip them with equip the planners and administrators. I have not mentioned about the teachers here or the educators here. Planners and administrators are to be equipped with a clear vision, a progressive vision, a vision that they have to improve the system of education and how educational philosophy does it. Okay, right. Now look at this answer sent by a previous student. Right. Can you all see the answer now? Hello.
Yes,
Philosophy
madam.
of education. Right, thank you. Philosophy of education provides a guiding vision that helps educational planners, administrators for what? Effectively achieve educational goals. Okay? By offering the right perspective. Okay. Here, the planners and administrators are provided with the right perspective, the right way of thinking, the right way of planning. That's through philosophy of education, right? With the critical thinking, with thinking of their values, right? And ethical constraints. All these things are considered by the planners and administrators. Why? They are with a correct angle of thinking, correct way of thinking, right? Why? They are influenced by philosophy of education, right? The second question now, how does educational philosophy bridge the gap between your experience, a practitioner's experience, and the theoretical knowledge? Now you have the practical experience. At the same time, you have learned a lot of theories, right? You learn educational psychology, uh, educational philosophy, educational measurement and evaluation. You learn all the theories. Then how does the two are connected? I mean, how does the two should be connected, right? Now here, educational philosophy enables teachers, administrators, and students to interpret their practical work through the lens of theoretical understanding and conversely to understand theory based on the experiences, right? Now they should understand the overlap, okay? The practical work and the theory. So the theory should influence the practice, but the practice gives you experience, right? Then educational philosophy guides you to interpret or inquire about the practice and connect the practice to the correct theories. Okay, can you understand that? Philosophy enables you to use or think of your practical work and then the understanding or the knowledge of the theories. Right? Then there's the overlap between the two, and you will be able to understand the theory based on your experience. Right? So the theory and the practice. You just learn the theories, you put them into practice. Through that practice, you get more and more experience, right? Then once you get more and more experience, you will be able to understand the theories well. Right. Number 3. In the context of fitting the square peg in the square hole and the round knot in the round hole, what is the key function of educational philosophy regarding individuals, right? Now, what does it mean? This is regarding individual differences. Okay, square and round, they are different. Right. Educational philosophy helps individuals find their appropriate roles or develop in ways that align with their inherent qualities and the demands of society, right? Nowadays, you can just see the A-level results, and some of the parents or some of the children might say that, okay, I would have studied through the art stream or the commerce stream, then I would have taken or obtained a good result, right? Like that, people have to think of their capabilities, right? Their inherent qualities, inborn talents, or whatever suitable, or whatever the field that the person is capable of, right? And there are demands of the society because there are different fields. There are different fields in the society which has a big demand, right? And then the child has to think of that. Then how does the person select whatever appropriate to him? Now, you can be a teacher and some other person might be maybe a technical officer, right? Okay. Then he or she should study technology and maybe if it is, if it, now we just think that teaching is very suitable for a lady and then the technical officer should be a gentleman. But if a girl wants to be a technical officer, he or she can do that. She has to select the correct path and she has to play the role of a technical officer. So, like that, educational philosophy guides the individual. So, then the teachers can organize different workshops for children to identify their inherent qualities and their correct path to be used whenever there's a choice. Okay. Let's see question 4. How do you argue that educational philosophy equips the young generation and society to navigate the challenges of the modern era, particularly in light of globalization? Right? Once I mentioned that the young generation they face different challenges, right? Even the society, right? Because there are different issues which we have never heard of, right? Which we have never seen. But educational philosophy should equip everyone, right? Enable those people to face those challenges, right? Enable us to face the challenges in the present day society, present era. Especially, we are living in the global village. That means we are members of the global village. Due to the globalization, the whole world has become a small village. That means information is rapidly exchanged, right? And your economy or your buying and selling and your teaching like this. The people should not travel, but you can get things done using modern technology. Now we are at different places, but we can speak to each other. We can share these PowerPoint presentations and our own ideas with each other. And we are engaging in education using this platform, right? So, like that, how educational philosophy enable people to face those challenges. Okay, let's see the answer. This one. Right. Now here, guiding, steering, and liberating force. Education philosophy acts as a guiding, steering, and liberating force. For what? Help young people and the society confront means face the challenging values, traditions, complexities of the modern world, and we have to face the challenges in the globalization, right? Now, using modern technology for the better, the good aspects of the lives, but at the same time, we have to think of the traditions and norms of the society, right? We should understand that the complexities of the modern age, our lives have been more and more complex, right? Why? Now, people's needs are different when we compare it with the ancient or the maybe the recent past, right? When you were young and when we were young, the eras are totally different from our ways of playing games, right? We played with children, but nowadays playing games means with the equipment, right? Like that, young people should change. That means they have to understand. They have to think of the accepted values, traditions at the same time. They have to go ahead with the rest of the world, right? So the educational philosophy should guide them properly for that. Okay. Beyond providing a progressive vision, what other practical benefits does the text means? The text the PowerPoint presentation, the content of that suggest educational philosophy offers to those involved in the field of education, right? Beyond providing only a progressive vision, what other practical benefits should educational philosophy give us? Give us means give people who involve in the field of education. Only the progressive vision is not enough, right? From philosophical or educational philosophy, we get number of things, but I have selected some short answers for you. And this is now, these answers are not fixed answers, right? You have to think and just provide a suitable answer with a logic there, right? Beyond a progressive vision, educational philosophy offers practical usefulness for practitioners, help grasp conceptual frameworks, facilitates the modification of activities to achieve desired outcomes. Right? Now, the things we discussed in different terms here, different words. From educational philosophy, we learn useful theories, right? They offer you practical usefulness for practitioners. That means we can learn the theory and put it into practice, right? Then the conceptual frameworks, right? We can now think of the changing ways of the way we think, right? The different or the new or appropriate or helpful conceptual frameworks should be there and provides or helps us to get modification of activities. That means new activities, right? Changing activities to achieve the desired outcomes, right? Now, the outcomes, the maybe the learning outcomes of the education system, they might be different from time to time. So, depending on the situation, educational philosophy offers us the opportunities. Educational philosophy guides us to get the expected results. Okay? All right. I think I didn't get a single answer to this. Why is that? Right. Now, let's move on to another activity. Just give me a second and I want you to read a small paragraph.
We're not done.
के फोन करला
Right. Just give me a second. Now I have to minimize. Okay. Right. Let's read this and see. Right. Can you all see this? This is again about scope of educational philosophy. Right. Now understand what it is. It is the study of all those aspects of schools of philosophy. Okay. Right. Take 2-3 minutes and read this. Right. I wanted you to focus on the problems mentioned here when we are studying scope of educational philosophy, right? Yes. Now you know it is the study of all those aspects of schools of philosophy, right? That means we studied different schools of philosophy. Can you remember? I gave the examples of Rousseau's philosophy, that's John Dewey's philosophy and Plato's philosophy. Now you can compare how Plato focuses a lot of attention on the development of the society, and then John Dewey focuses on the individual, and John Dewey's philosophy is based on the practical work, learning by doing, and experiments there, right? Like that. And then the Rousseau focuses on the child's nature, learning, the children's learning with nature, right? And he says the child is not a small adult, right? Like that, as teachers, we have to study the traditional philosophies on education, and then the medieval period, and then the modern period. So the foundation for modern period is the ancient era. Therefore, all the things are very important. All these ideas are important for us. You have to study them for the purpose of the examination. At the same time, you have to analyze how the teacher or the teaching strategies or methodologies can be different depending on different aspects, right? Depending on different factors. So then, based on those ideas, you may face different challenges in the field of education. Therefore, you have to use your own philosophy. You have to think critically. You have to use the expertise ideas, and then you have to take a decision which should be fair by everyone, maybe in your classroom, right? Now, you have to think of in the field of education, eh, philosophy is very important, and then there are problems in the system or the problems in the field of education. There are few examples given here. Uh, the problems include interpretation of human nature, the world, and the universe, and their relation with man. Right? Now, at the very beginning, I told you philosophy questions a lot. I asked those questions from you, and you gave me answers. They are very interesting. And please focus your attention on those questions as well. Why? Philosophy questions on human nature, the world, and the universe, and their relation with the man. Right? You also face different questions, ask different questions. Right? Then philosophy answers these questions as well. Okay? Then interpretation of aims and ideals of education, right? That's a question. How do we define aims of education? Maybe in a country, right? We get the help of a philosopher. We get the help of philosophical ideas. And then in the system of education, there are different elements, different components, different parts, right? And how do we maintain the correct way of relationships among them, right? That's another question. How do we just let the students go up the ladder of education? Hmm? Then there should be the uh, relationship between the subjects, right? Maybe the syllabus, maybe the curriculum. All these things are the components of the education, right? Then relationship of education and various areas of the national life. That means the country, right? This is, I think, we discussed once with the today's lesson, the economic system of a country. Now think of the Sri Lankan economy and the economy of another country. Now you know most of our people, they actually the educated people and some other people, they migrate to European countries, right? They migrate to some other countries. Then they speak to us regarding the education system in those countries. Why? The economic system can influence a lot, but Sri Lankan economy is different from that of another country, right? And the political ideology is different. right? The social progress. In some countries, it is very fast moving and there's a speedy progress, right? And in some other countries, we can't see a progress. We sometimes see a deterioration, right? So then everyone thinks that it is the duty of the education. Maybe it is the duty of the school system. So, like that, there are these problems, and the education system should answer. And then the philosophy questions, and philosophy gives a suggestion. Philosophy guides the education system. Okay, right. Then educational values in the society and theory of knowledge and its relationship to education. The theories we learned, right? And those theories, the knowledge is imparted. How the knowledge is imparted, how the theories are imparted, or the how we can make people aware of the theories, right? And the relationship between theory to education, right? How we can relate the two, how we have to develop education based on the accepted theories. So these are some of the important aspects that we have to focus our attention on. And we have to remember that educational philosophy focuses on all aspects of the school system or the schools in the country, right? That means education. And you can understand the difference between our school system, and we sometimes say that schools of philosophy, that means different ideas from different institutions or different people, right? So then all those philosophical ideas, all those schools of philosophy, and how they influence on education is very important for us. Now, please remember that we don't have to think of the answer, right? You can now, sometimes you might think that Plato's philosophy is the best, or Jean-Jacques Rousseau's philosophy is the best. No, we have to study all these ideas and then we can get the gist of it and we can relate it to the present day society. We can relate it to our challenges as individuals. And at the same time, education authorities, the policymakers, they all consider all these ideas and which are most relevant to the country, which are most relevant to the society, right? They are selected by them and these things are suggested in the education system in Sri Lanka. Right. Now, I think we have discussed a lot on educational philosophy. You all can understand the importance of educational philosophy and how a teacher or why a teacher should learn philosophy, right? Why do you teach or why do you learn educational philosophy, right? Now you learn educational psychology in order to understand the child and plan your lessons, right? For example, an educational philosophy for the teacher to develop his own philosophy and then work accordingly, right? So that's very important. And at the same time, I advise everyone to study everything well and focus your attention on the correct idea, right? And I don't be narrow-minded, study them well, but you have to select and you have to give or think of examples for each and every situation where there are theories, right? And I have given you some examples from our school system, from our life, and how we behave, how we react to people. Like that, we have to understand different angles of personal philosophy. Okay? Any questions? Any questions? No? Right. Then we have one more session. Is there any suggestion from your part for
Madam, could you
tomorrow?
please send the PPT today?
Ah, yes, yes. Okay, definitely. Thank you for reminding. Yeah. Any other suggestion? Yes. Right. Okay. Yesterday's PowerPoint, can't you get from it? I mean, get it from a friend? Is there anybody who can share yesterday's PowerPoint present? Ah, right, right. Okay, I'll do. It's here. This is today's one. Right, now I think you got it. Okay, right? I think I shared both, right? Yes. Please read everything there and try to understand and prepare a note based on that. And you may study it for the examinations, and then you can study them when you are writing assignments at the same time. You can think critically and you can make use of those ideas for your day-to-day teaching career, right? Whenever there's a situation, whenever there's a difficult situation, especially, and whenever there's a challenge, you can just think of all these philosophies and how people make use of them. Okay? Right. Right. Since there are no questions from your part, we can stop now. Okay. See you all tomorrow. And I think that will be the last session. Then based on this, I think yes, my suggestion is for you all to read all the notes, all the PowerPoint presentations given, and then you will be able to get the maximum out of tomorrow's lesson. Okay? If you don't read and if you are not ready, then you don't understand anything, and then there will be a lot of confusion. Therefore, I advise everyone to read and understand everything. And if there are questions, you can let me know tomorrow. Okay. Thank you for listening, and then thank you for your active participation. Good night, everyone.
Good night, madam.
Good night, madam.
Okay, good night.
Good night, madam.
Good night.